All right. So I've got a PowerPoint that I'm going to kind of bring up and show as we go through this. I might hop off of it here and there just to check the chat. The lesson I've learned so far is I am going to throw some YouTube videos into it to show you guys, but I'm not going to show them on the video unless somebody really needs, because then YouTube doesn't let me share it the way that's easiest to. They block me for duplicating content. So I will send out some videos with just some cool information and things for you guys to watch as a side note. So if you need any of that, let me know. And certainly if you have questions on it, once I post that, feel free to reach out, but I will post some additional content coming out of this call as the thing, based on the things we talk about and the questions you have. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real fast and we'll get going on this one. All right. So like I said, if you come up with any questions, feel free, let me know if, I'm missing anything. But basic thing, if you've been on the calls before, I've kind of gone over the basic breakdown of the sessions. I'll kind of speed through it since I've been through it for most of you guys. But the U4 division isn't even on here. Basically, what I've done with that group is they're so little that we've basically made it like a agility, coordination, learn to meet other kids, and just socialize and get used to playing athletics in a group. So that is a pro coach one. So we don't have parent coaches. We do encourage parents to participate in that as their kid needs, just to get them engaged in playing. But that's something that is still pro coached. U5 to U7 all play just on a Saturday. So they have one practice, and I call it a session because it's practice and game combined. So I always say that the U5 and U7 session is on Saturday. There's only one a week, and they play for that 1 hour. Anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes of that session is a practice piece, and then the other half is the game portion. So when we go through that, I'll kind of hammer out the U5 to U7 piece at the beginning of the call. That way, anyone who doesn't care about the U8 and above tactics can hop off, but obviously you're welcome to stay on for that piece as well. U8 and above all have a practice a week and a game. So they have a little bit more soccer, and the coaches are responsible for a little bit more as they have to run an hour session and then also help with the game coaching piece on the Fridays or the Saturdays, whichever one it happens to be, sometimes a Sunday. And there are refs for their games. So that's the main difference. And then the U11 and above, again, the difference for them is that they have a practice a week as well, but their games are not in-house. They play in a local league called CASA. And so they play against other leagues outside of Lake Travis. So there's LTYA, and then there's, Leander has a team, and Pflugerville has a team, and Round Rock has a team, and they play against those rec teams in other areas of Central Austin. So that's the main difference between those divisions. We've talked a little bit about, sorry about that. The philosophy, and we've talked grade and birth year a lot. I won't go into that a ton, but soccer does everything differently than all the other sports. So just again, a reminder that basically if your kid wants to play with everyone in their class, they've got to play up to the division of the oldest player in their grade, meaning that if third graders want to play with other third graders, they should play U10. If second graders want to play with other second graders, they should play U9. If you have specific questions about that, let me know. But again, soccer does it based on birth year, meaning everyone born in 2013 is a U10. So some are in third grade and some are in second grade. So that can be a bit tough for kids and parents, as kids like to play with their friends in their classes. But I think we're past that point, but just want to make sure everybody kind of gets that, as we're a little bit of a different animal in that respect. Development, I say this for rec, but this is also very true for, even my U12 team that is, competitive and playing at the select level in the Lake Travis Elite program. They've got to love the game. So my main job is to make sure that they want to come to practice, they want to keep playing soccer, and that they love it and enjoy it. And that, I show them some cool things along the way so they continue to get better at soccer and make it something that they want to do in their free time. Part of doing that as a coach is really helping kids embrace challenges and roadblocks, meaning, when I've got a player, I'm happy for them to look to make a pass or look to take on a player and lose the ball and then just work hard to win it back. Help the kids understand that, success is not the only gauge of if we're doing well or if we're doing poorly. Failing is also a part of getting better at a sport and knowing that you're challenging yourself and trying to get better. So, definitely when you're working with the kids, I understand, there's a fine line between, butterflies and rainbows and just saying good job to anything and being constructive and actually giving them solid information and feedback. And what I mean by that is, you might have a kid that, it goes and they win the ball off of another player and they kick it at their own goal. And so they've kicked it the wrong direction, but the best way to kind of coach towards that is, hey, fantastic work. You did an excellent job, really great effort. I love how hard you went to get that ball and you had a great shot, but you just got to get it the other way next time. And if you do that, that's going to be a goal every time. So, just try and find the successes they're having and then put them in context of how they can improve rather than what are you doing? You kicked it the wrong way. They don't typically know what they're doing or why they're doing it. So we've got to give them context on how to be better and what we think they're doing well. The other kind of piece of that, as far as, the development, is that the majority of the content we give, the kids only hear so much of it. You could do an entire practice and, you could be the best coach in the entire world and give them the best tactics they've ever heard, best advice they've ever heard. And at the end, you could ask them, hey, what'd you learn today? And they'll be like, well, I learned that I should run faster. And you may not have said anything about running fast at all. So the biggest factor for kids is your tone and the way you say things. If you kind of say it in a way that makes them hear you and is exciting and enjoyable and something that they can respond well to, they typically hear your message. If it's mean and loud and harsh, all they kind of hear is mean and loud and harsh. So kind of try and find that balance between, giving them content and just making sure that you use a tone that they can respond to. That's not necessarily like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? Because most likely they don't know. And if they did, they would probably do it differently. So that's kind of the two biggest lessons I've learned in a nutshell over my 15 years of coaching, is just trying to have a better tone and context of information when I'm speaking to the kids. We talked about the age groups, but just to, make sure everybody knows, the U5s to U6s, it can be 3v3 or 4v4. I don't go bigger than that just because, then you get a lot of kids in a small space and no one really touches the ball. So try and keep it a 3v3 or 4v4, and you can kind of make that decision based on your team and the other team and how many players you have. If you've got, 4 or 5 players, 3v3 might be perfect. If you've got 6 or 7, 4v4 is probably going to be a lot easier for subbing purposes and just getting them out there and playing. U7 to U8 will always be 5v5. And they do play with a goalie. So it'll be a goalkeeper, 4 players on the field. So a total of 5 players on each side. And again, with the goalkeeper, my biggest pitch to the goalkeepers is the goalkeeper is just a field player. It's not 4 field players and a goalie, it's 5 field players. And one of those field players is a superhero that gets to use their hands where no one else can. So I encourage you to encourage your goalkeeper to be an active participant, where they, use their feet when they need to, pick up the ball where they can, and really try and help them see their role as something that's engaging and exciting, not just to stand on the line and, get it if it happens to come to you. Same thing for U9 and U10. They will be 7v7. And the same thing applies for the goalkeeper. So, encourage them to be a part of the game. Encourage them to be an active participant, not someone that just kind of sits back and is there just in case. U11, U12 are 9v9, and U13 and up is 11v11. Only thing I'll say about kind of all those formations and all those games is one of the biggest skills in soccer is movement. We don't, that's probably something people overlook as a skill, but the one thing about soccer is that the more you can move and play and be an active participant, the better you're going to be. So if you can encourage your defenders and your midfielders and your forwards to get up the field when they're attacking and to all get back when they're defending and to kind of move as one unit, That's going to be the biggest asset you can give your team and the biggest way you can make this game fun for everybody when they're on the field. So just make sure that the kids understand that, we should all be running and moving together. If you're standing and just watching, you're more of a spectator than a player, and we want them all to be players. So for the U5 to U6 session structure, it's pretty much when they get there, I think the biggest thing is that the first 5 minutes, they just need to warm up, get them moving, get them running. They could play a game of tag. They can play a game of, dribbling, chasing, whatever. I'll send you out a session, but you just want to get them moving in that first 5 minutes, help them have fun together, and make it something where they get excited to see everyone again, since they saw them the previous week. Then that leaves you with about 20 minutes of a skill portion, whether it's, and the majority of skills in U5 to U6 that I send out is going to be dribbling and one player, one ball, maybe, two players to one ball in a kind of a 1v1 setup. But the biggest message that I like to send kids from the age of 4 to 9 is, well, I'll say 4 to 7, but even up to the age of 9 is how comfortable can we make them with the ball? Can you dribble past someone? Can you go win a ball? Can you get a ball? Can you take someone on? And can you be confident with the ball at your feet? So passing and spacing and all of that is super important, but we get this kind of finite window of time where these kids get to be excited about having the ball at their feet. And those players that want it and want to spend time with it are the ones that typically become pretty good, because they just get used to running around with a round object at their feet. So that's what we want to encourage and work on the most, especially in these U5, U6 sessions. So a lot of the session information I send out will include one player with the ball and then maybe a player defending them. So we add a little bit of a pressure element to those games. As far as coaching those U5 to U6 sessions, again, I'll send those sessions out, but it's really getting them moving, getting them having fun, have a ball at their feet. But once we get to the game portion, we play the new ball system. We've talked about that. And basically coaches or parents, you can put parents on each side, and we just want to keep a ball in play and keep them moving and running. We want winning is fun and scoring goals is fun, but we just want them constantly getting forward, getting back, chasing a ball, dribbling, spreading out, and using the space and moving as much as possible. So don't worry too much about positions. They're definitely going to play bunch ball in this U5 to U6 session, and that's okay. The biggest thing you can encourage is if someone's coming at you, go and get them. If the ball is near you, get the ball if you can. And if you get it, dribble and see what you can do with it. Anything outside of that, if you can coach more than that and know enough to do so, great. That's awesome. Please do. But don't stress if the kids are still, in a bunch and not playing positions 4 or 5 games into the season. It won't look like soccer as you think it for most of these U5s to U6s. So that's okay. The biggest coaching points outside of dribble, get the ball, is can you change speed and change direction, which is why starting a session with tag or how many cones can you touch before I count to 10, whatever it is important, because part of the agility factor of soccer is, can you understand how to go slower and then faster and go one way and then the other way? And if the kids can grasp that type of movement, they're going to be very successful in soccer and probably any other sport they choose. So at this age, we also understand that, they might go to football or baseball or basketball or lacrosse or dance, so a part of this is, one, we want to develop them for soccer, but we also just want to make sure that we're teaching them to be athletic and to move well and be healthy so that they can compete in whatever sport they end up choosing moving forward. Selfishly, hopefully soccer, but if not, we want to make sure they have those fundamentals from our sport to carry into whatever they do decide to play. For the U7 session, it's not much different than the U5s and U6s. The main difference here is that, I think that when they move into U8, we add referees, we add a practice, and there's kind of a pretty large jump previously from U6 to U7 and U7 to U8. So the goal of U7 is to teach the kids the rules and introduce them to a little bit of structure. So at U7, they will have a lined field. They will we'll encourage you guys to take corner kicks and goal kicks and throw-ins, which are all restarts. And what we mean by that is, it doesn't matter, it's not a huge deal if white gets a throw in or red gets a throw in. It's just so that we can start to introduce how to do a throw in, right? So that when they get to U8 and U9 and U10, they've seen it before, they've done it before, and they're not throwing, a throw in like Aaron Rodgers is throwing, a touchdown pass, right? They understand the basics of these rules if they've played the sport in U7. The other thing here too is just to kind of get them to start to understand that there are lines and areas that you can use hands and not use hands, and just to learn a little bit more about the sport before they move into a structured environment where there's going to be someone like a referee holding them accountable for these rules. So again, as the coaches for U7, don't get overly caught up in making sure you've called it right or perfect every time. If it's barely on the line and the game's flowing well and you let the game play on a little bit instead of calling it out of bounds every single time, that's okay. We just want them to understand that if the ball goes 10 yards out of bounds, that means it's a throw in. If the red team is defending and kicks it out of bounds, the white team gets a corner kick. So really just starting to introduce these rules. And again, I'll send out a weekly session of ways to introduce these rules and set pieces and restarts to the game, and make it fun while you do so. For the U7s and below, I'll kind of talk about what that looks like for a coach here. We will have pro coaches out at the field. We have about one pro coach for every 2 fields. So in the case that a coach can't make it, we absolutely can have our pro coaches kind of take them. We might combine a couple teams for the practice part and then get the games flowing and going and get the kids playing and kind of bounce between fields for that. But definitely we will have people out there. If you don't know the rules, if you're not comfortable with the skills, we will have coaches out there to help you guys introduce those and to support you through the process. If you're not going to be out there, shoot me an email, and that way I can make sure that the pro coaches know, hey, this field is definitely going to have a team that probably needs a little bit of extra help today, because they're not sure if there's a parent that's going to be able to step in and take them. And that way people aren't just wandering around with no one to structure the kids. So let me know if you ever can't make one of those U7 or below sessions, and I will do my best to get us covered throughout the hours. The 9 a.m. session is always going to be the hardest because that's when we run our U4s. So at 9 a.m., from 9 to 9:45, we have a good majority of our coaches running the U4 sessions. But that being said, we should still be able to cover it. That's just the only little 45-minute window that gets pretty busy out on those Saturdays. So just a heads up for that, not to say that we can't help you if your game's at that time, but that's the only consideration out there for that age group and those Saturdays. If I'm going to click out real fast and just see if anyone has any questions from that. Doesn't look like anyone's had any questions so far, so I'll hop back over to that. But that's about it for the U7s and below. It's pretty basic. The main thing is we just want the kids to have fun, enjoy soccer, and start to develop some of those basic skills going into, first and second grade, so that as they start to move into that age where they can start to play, organized sports and are starting to get used to playing with other people, they're ready for it, whether it's soccer or another sport. Going into the U8s and above, definitely it's a little bit of a different ball game talking about these kids at this age, because there is a ref, there is a practice during a week, there is a game on the weekend. So there's a little bit more coaching wise that goes into it, or that, people feel obligated to consider. For the practice, again, I'll send out a session. I haven't finished making them, but I should be done with them by the end of this week. And I'm basically going to post a bunch of videos that just go over some of the basic technical skills you can do with kids. So some dribbling things, some passing things, some shooting things, and really there are certain words that I use in a lot of the sessions that I noticed as I sent them out last season. And I just want to be able to kind of give you a video to watch. So hopefully you can demonstrate. It's not going to be anything crazy or over the top. But for example, with dribbling, if I say, I want you to teach them to dribble and they need to do like push it with their pinky toe, I'll show you exactly what that looks like. There are tons of other videos that I encourage you to look into or check out on YouTube if you're interested, but hopefully you can kind of watch mine and it'll give you a little bit more guided direction and exactly what I'm talking about. in addition to that, the Mojo guys, they're sending us a date, I believe today or tomorrow morning, to do a call. And the Mojo app is good for everyone U5 to U15. And basically what they have in that app is you can put in the age of your players, how many players you have, and how long your session is, and they'll spit a session out for you, and you can watch the exact practice of them running it through it with certain kids, and then you can replicate it from there, which is nice. Some of their drills are a little bit repetitive, which is why I also do mine on the side. But I think combining all of that together, you guys should have a really, really good knowledge base and library of information to access to help coach the kids. So that daytime should be coming tomorrow morning. I'm just waiting to hear back because I think baseball and basketball and volleyball and soccer, we're all trying to kind of coordinate so that Mojo could get all of us and do a demonstration, because the app does work for all of the sports, I think, which is nice. So that should help a lot of you parents that are coaching, 4 sports, because y'all are amazing. So hopefully that is a helpful thing for soccer and everything else. And I'll get that out to you guys as soon as we can.
Some water when you get a chance.
And then so back to U8 for the practice. Again, for the practice, the way we generally structure a practice for soccer is going to be, you're going to spend the first 5 minutes doing a little warm up. It can be with a ball or without a ball, kind of up to you. And then you're going to do a skill. So my skill would maybe be dribbling, or it would be passing, or something that's always going to include one player, maybe 2 players. And then from doing, we call it technical in soccer, from doing the technical skill, we'll usually move it into some sort of small-sided game where there's a little bit of pressure added by putting 1 defender or 2 defenders, or adding an aspect of time to make it competitive. So we go from just doing a skill to adding some component of pressure, and then adding some component of play, meaning, it goes from being just 1 player, 1 ball, or 2 players and 1 ball playing together, to an opponent in some respect. Then from there, we usually try and incorporate what we call small-sided play, meaning you're not just scrimmaging, but you're doing scrimmage-like activities. So maybe if it's a shooting game, you would have a player pass the ball to 1 player, and then after they pass it, they run to try and defend them when that 1 player tries to score, which adds the level of pressure. And then from there, if you're in a game, you take it to a scrimmage component, and all you're going to kind of coach to is helping the kids make sure that they're working on scoring goals, or getting to goal, or getting forward. So you can kind of pick themes to coach on. So off of that tangent, what that basically means is I could run the same practice 10 times with the same games and just coach to something different. Meaning in one practice, I could play a 1v1 game, and when the players are playing 1v1, the only thing I'm going to coach is the attacker, meaning the person that is dribbling the ball. I want to teach them how to change direction, to change speed, to try and get past the person, to go forward. And that could be 1 week of practice. The next week, I could run the exact same practice, but then that next week, when I run that practice, I'm not going to talk to the attacker at all. I'm just going to let them play. And instead, I'm only going to talk to the defender, and I'm going to tell the defender, your only job is to keep that player in front of you. Don't let them get past you. Make sure you run at them and close down space as best you can. So there are a lot of things that I can send out that if you're familiar with the sport at all, and if you're not, again, I'll give you that content. But if you are familiar with the sport, just remember, you can use a lot of the same games and just coach to specific skills or tactics as you're playing that. And again, for some of you, as I'm kind of talking through some of these, some of you have coached for a long time, and some of you are brand new to it. So I want to give all of you a little bit of application for this. So if some things are over your head, don't worry about it. And obviously, if some things I'm speaking way down to your level, no problem. I just want to try and give you guys some content as well on that front. So that's the practice piece for U8 and above. If any of you have specific questions for whatever level you're out at, please feel free to shoot me a message. I'm happy to, talk about things. My only restriction is that Mondays and Wednesdays I coach from 5:30 to 7. So for those sessions, I'm usually in a practice, but outside of that, I'm pretty available and out at the fields. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, I typically help with the U4s from
She
4:30
sent it to
to
everybody
5:30.
when she's starting this thing, so I wanted to see.
So, I'm around. Let me know if you need help or if you have any specific questions about it. I'm happy to kind of chit chat at any level about it. I'm gonna pop out here real quick and see if we have any questions on those. All right, I don't think we have any questions so far. So coming off of those, the only other thing I wanted to kind of touch base on really off of this is all right, sorry. All right. So we talked about the practice session. The next one we get to is basically the positions. And when we get to positions, I've gone over this a little bit before, but the biggest thing with the goalie is, we have a goalie, but, a goalie is an unforgiving job. So anytime a goalie's in there, I mean, if my goalie lets a ball go in, the first thing I'm going to do is, pick them up and give them some rewarding thing of like, that's all right. We need help. It had to get by everyone to get to you. So if the ball rolls between the goalie's legs, I usually tell them like, hey, look, I know you know how to pick a ball up. That's okay. It happens. We all make mistakes. So just remember, if something's happening to your goalie, they are the one person that, anything bad that happens, we've got to pick them up because it's hard. So pick and choose your times to give your goalies feedback on how to be better and coach them, because it's just, it's a hard position to play, especially because a small mistake has a huge consequence. Which is why I also, like I said before, really play the superhero card for the goalkeeper, because, if they play it right, it is a lot of fun and they are involved in the game a lot, and that's how it should happen. So, as far as a position, if you have a team where you don't have someone who's set in goalie, that's fine. Just rotate them through. And, you could even play them, you could play them like 10 minutes at a time. So you have anywhere from, 2 to 4 goalies a game. There's nothing wrong with just rotating them through, giving them little stints and getting them through that position. I've certainly done that plenty of times as a coach, even at the select level. So if there's no one that really wants to do it, no need to force them into doing it, but definitely reward them. And they typically like to do it as long as they know that they're going to get some field time as well. For the center defenders, when we're talking 5v5 and 7v7, the 9v9s and above, let me know if you want to chat formations or tactics, because that starts to look a little bit different than the U10s and below. But for the U10s and below, when we're talking defenders, typically what you're looking for is sneaky, clever players. And what I mean by that is when the ball goes up, they go up, and their job is to kind of sit behind the play. And then anytime that ball is about to pop out, their job is to pounce on it, right? And win it and try and get it forward and find something productive to do to get it into space. And that's going to be center defenders and outside defenders when we're talking 5v5 and 7v7, just because the formations tend to have lower numbers in them. But the main job of the defenders is to be ready, to be sneaky, and to anticipate. I like to tell them a lot of time, like, if it's going to rain today, what's your mom going to tell you to do? Wear a raincoat, take an umbrella, do something to prepare. So if you're a defender, you're always preparing, you're always trying to think ahead, and you're always just trying to figure out where that ball might go next. For the midfielders, they're just moving all the time. When the ball is in front of their goal, they should be back in front of their goal helping to defend. And when the ball is up in the attacking half and their team's trying to score, they should be up there in the action. So those midfielders should be really tired all the time, covering pretty much the length of that field. We call it box to box, meaning they should go from one goalie box to the other goalie box as the ball does. The forward or the striker, meaning those players that you actually put up top to be the goal scorers or to be the high player, the main thing for them is they should move But instead of moving up and down the field from goal box to goal box, they usually move from side to side. So they'll move from one sideline to the other, with their job being how much can they annoy the defenders on the other team. So if the ball comes to those defenders, or if their team can get it up the field, can they make sure that they win it and create problems for those defenders, so the defenders can't just put it right back into a dangerous space for that team. So the forward's job is to move laterally a little bit more than it is to move up and down the field. That being said, again, the biggest thing for soccer is, can we move? Can we be active? Can we get up and down? And can we use as much of the field as possible? That's going to be the biggest thing for all of those kids playing on the field, is can they get up and down the field? Formations are not going to be as big of a deal. From there, let's all get up, kind of talk through that. All right, we'll go back to positions. All right, so on positions, I thought I had a formation slide, and that's another one, so sorry about that. But when I say formations, what I mean is we'll talk 7v7 because it's kind of middle ground. But basically what a formation is a way that a team plays. Meaning, when we're talking formations, we're going to talk about there's a goalkeeper. So a goalkeeper is one. We don't usually include that in the math that we do. As far as, for example, we would play 3-2-1 could be a formation you would play for 7v7, meaning there are 3 defenders, there are 2 midfielders, and there is 1 forward. That would be our Christmas tree formation. That would be a very defensive formation because you have 3 in the back, 2 in front of them, and then only 1 forward who starts up top. If you wanted a little bit more of an attacking formation, you would probably play 2 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 1 forward. So when we say that, it's just kind of how you organize your players and where you put them on the field and the roles you give them. Now, again, that's going to be kind of a higher level conversation. If you're into it and you get it and you're all about soccer, formations we can talk about all day. But on the most basic level, when you are coaching 5v5 and 7v7 especially, don't worry so much about positions. If I tell Sarah that she is the right defender and Sarah sits up top at midfield and never comes back or runs back to defend, but Beth is my forward and she runs all the way back to defend our goal every single time, when I'm coaching, I'm just going to start coaching Beth to be my right defender, and I'm going to start coaching Sarah to be my center forward. So don't fight the positions that they're kind of in. You can always, when the ball goes out of bounds or you have a little bit of downtime, try and bring the kids back to their positions and get them to reset and understand where they should be. But in the run of play, if someone's closest to the ball, just encourage whoever is closest to get the ball, and whoever is in the best position to fill a certain space you need filled, just let them fill it. Don't fight the structure and the formation that they kind of naturally get into. And then as they understand the game, you can then really start to help them understand positioning and where they should be in those spots. It's also a really good way to kind of figure out who you should start or play where, because they have those natural tendencies to be able to play those positions. I don't think so. Those are the main things for me. I just wanted to kind of touch on practice, the resources we have, what I'll be putting out. As far as U8 and above, the rules, that's the last thing I really want to go over really quick, is our in-house rules for U8 through U10. But outside of that, I don't have anything else. So if you have any questions, throw them in the chat. But for the most part, those are the main things I wanted to go over tonight and just give you guys the opportunity to kind of ask me about. The main things for U8 and above, they play 25-minute halves, all of them. The goalkeeper can use their hands inside the box. For goal kicks, the attacking or the team that is taking the goal kick can have as many players in the box as they want and touch it before it leaves the box. The team attacking the goal, where the goal kick is being taken, cannot enter the box until after the ball has been touched. So taking goal kicks, one thing you can do that is really helpful is if your goalie is taking it, you can put a defender right, or a teammate right next to that goalkeeper so they can just pass it to him and they can dribble that ball out of the box rather than your goalie having to try and kick it out of the box if you don't have anyone that can kick it far. When the goalie does pick up the ball, one thing that teams tend to struggle with is when the goalie picks up the ball inside the box and makes a save, that ball is still live. You can't sub at that point. And the goalie can run all the way to the top of the box and throw it out from there. But that is a live ball. That isn't something where the goalie can put it back down and take a goal kick. That is their ball in their possession and they must throw it out. They can't punt it in this league. They have to throw it or roll it out to someone. The other thing that we see a lot of is that if the ball goes into the small box, we call it the 5-yard box or 6-yard box, any player can enter that area. It's only in the 3v3 league that players cannot go inside that small box right in front of the goalie. In 5v5 and 7v7, anyone can enter that area and anyone can touch the ball in that area. Those are the two biggest rules that we have questions about. The other thing that's come up a few times is slide tackling. And I'll say the same thing about slide tackling and offside and throw-ins. And the biggest thing with that is the refs are going to call anything that they can as far as seeing someone offside, seeing a throw-in that, creates an unfair advantage or helping the kids learn how to do them, or a slide tackle that looks dangerous. But the biggest thing as a coach, if you can just help the kids understand the rules and try and hold them accountable yourself for them, that's the real goal of this, is to introduce rules, introduce offside, let them know that, if a kid can perfectly slide tackle, we don't have to tell them that it's illegal. But we also, if you've got a kid that's doing something that looks unsafe and they're, flying at kids from every angle, then we want to tell them like, hey buddy, that's not a safe thing to do. We can hurt someone doing that. So, I'll be out there again. If you have questions on what that looks like, please let me know. And like I said, the refs will call it kind of depending on how things look. And from a safety perspective, trying to keep players safe and calling fouls on anything that looks like it's anything that could potentially hurt anyone. So, I think that's all. Those are the main ones. If you come up with anything, any questions I missed here, let me know. I'll have the schedules posted for this coming weekend by tomorrow morning. And then, uniforms, we'll get those distributed this week at practice, and have some times that people can pick them up next week in case for some reason they don't get them this week. Well, we have them available. They're in stock, so that will not be an issue. So everything should be passed out this week, and anyone who doesn't get it will have times next week where they can pick them up if for some reason they're out this week or cannot get them. So thank you guys for hopping on. I'm going to go ahead and kick off of the recording now, but if you have any questions and you want to stay on or ask me anything, feel free to. And hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening, and look forward to seeing you guys all out there this week.